just so you know. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I did make sort of like had a break doing these events, I guess. I'm not keeping track. Um, it's been really sort of like an overwhelming time recently, with all sorts of troubles, let's say, and so I'm using this wonderful uh, um, opportunity, to introduce this album, which I think turned out wonderfully. It's a collaboration album that Jan-Peter Schwalm and me started, about, I can remember, even like two and a half 2 years ago, I guess, and or a little, yeah, a little more than that. And it's just an album that is so super close to my heart now. It's something that really touches me, and I wanted to give you just a little bit of background on, like my history with Peter's music. I remember reading about him like in the late '90s, in German music magazines, and I checked out some of the music, that he had put out, and can't even remember what it was called. Something like Slop Shop or something like that. I can't remember. He's not here yet to tell us. He's taking his kids to bed. So, but anyway, then there was this album by Brian Eno and Jan Peter, and that is like one of my top five albums ever. And it's just, if you don't know it, it's really like it's the absolute like pinnacle of musical creation for me somehow. And the funny thing is, like when I started dating my girlfriend and now mother of my child, we went on a vacation in France, and we listened to this album. And in one of the pieces, and I think like maybe in the, yeah, Drawn from Life is the name of the album. Um, we uh, we listened to that album, and on the last track there is like a baby's voice, or a little child like speaking. And so when I told her that I'm going to do this, Jessica, my girlfriend, I told her that I'm going to have this project with Jan Peter. She said, "Oh, that's the album with the baby." So that's sort of like how she registered and remembered it. But I really do think it's an absolutely wonderful album, and turns out that working with Jan Peter, I can confirm that it's his sound. And I know that it's sacrilege to say that maybe, but being in the studio with him, it was obvious. Like he has that. It's his vibe. It's his way of dealing with sound and masses of sound, and it was just a wonderful experience. And it was a little bit convoluted, you could say, but really not, because like we started out. I sent him some files, some soundscapey tracks that I had recorded. Actually, it was leftover material from my three Monde releases. Monde means moons, or yeah, moons, and it was leftover material, and I just sent him a couple of those loops, and he started building a track around a couple or three maybe, and one of them was really nice, and I think it's, as a foundation for a track, it ended up on the album. But really, what happened is that I used to live or stay in a place called Dortmund in the middle of Germany, and Frankfurt is about, well, Peter is in Frankfurt, and Frankfurt is about like a 2 hour drive by car, and I went to visit him in his studio, and so I don't know how personal we can get here, but Peter has a health condition. He has to be careful, and he doesn't have a lot of concentration per day. So it was really like, it was interesting to, for me to see how would it work to collaborate, how much time can we spend together really. And so even though I think I arrived maybe at like 10 or 11 in the morning, and we look, yeah, to produce this album, I think we only spent two days together, which went from like, yeah, 11 or 12 in the morning or noon, till about 8 at night. And basically, and Peter says that in the in the introductory text, also in the promotional text for the album, it's like I was the painter and he was the sculptor, and that sort of like is a really really good description of how this album came together. And I'm so grateful that um, in recent years, like my palette of sounds, I never felt like I could use everything like in one project. So everything was like so always turned out to be like more conceptual. So like yeah, for that kind of style of album, you know, I use that kind of synth sound, and then for that other live performance, I'd use these sounds and blah blah blah. And in collaboration with the Embody, I would use this kind of style and blah blah blah. And everything was sort of like became compartmentalized for me, and not so much with Peter, which was really really wonderful for me. And so I sort of like went back to some of my musical beginnings, which were in free improvised music. That was actually like the first scene that I was connected to in Bielefeld, where I was studying psychology in the early '90s. And so a lot of the sounds that you're hearing are actually sourced from my touch guitar. Sorts of like lots of crackles and like open string noises, like muted and bad notes, and scraping the strings and hitting the body. And then there's a lot of like really low bass parts that are part of it. Then there is some of these soundscapey bits that I create with really long delay loops. Um, and Peter was, just as I said, like he was the sculptor. He took all these materials and um, started uh, and I don't really know how he did it. Like he kind of like was absolutely sure. It seemed yeah, like he was always absolutely sure what he wanted to do with these, right? And so what I absolutely love about this album also is like you have to imagine that each of the pieces that you're hearing, I will soon start playing something, in their original form could have been 30 minutes long. The original sessions, the original improvisation. And I'm the sort of guy who kind of like falls in love with the first take, right? So I would say, okay, it's done. Like we can use that. And it would have been great, I know. But him kind of like picking and choosing and producing and putting his beats and his synthesizers, in some cases like some sort of like percussive, like also tuned percussive sounds, and a little bit of piano. And then later on, Sophie's voice was added almost as an afterthought, which I think was a really really great idea, to sort of like lift the mood towards the end of the album a little more than. Yeah, I'm going to say more about the story that the album tells later. So I just, like I'm going to stream via Zoom and via audio movers. So if you have both open, you will hear the music twice. So you have to decide which one to use. So you will have to find a way in the preferences in Zoom to turn down the volume of your loudspeaker so that you're only hearing the audio movers, right? Or if that's too much to do, just listen via Zoom. Okay, so I'm going to press play here just on the first track. And let's see, maybe we're going to listen to 2 or 3 pieces. And then I'm going to talk again, and maybe we'll have Peter then. He's trying to join, but it doesn't seem to work right now. Okay, so here we go. Okay, that was the first three pieces. Peter, are you here now?
Oh, now you're gone.
I
My
say
daughter
something.
is still away, so
I see. I see. Okay. Okay. I understand. So no problem. You look
I
after
have to
her.
find a place in my flat, where the internet works and where my daughter doesn't follow me. Hello.
Yeah, that's life as a dad, right?
Yeah, it is.
Hey, so Peter, I already told people a little bit about how we started the process, the project, and then that I started visiting you, and that we worked, um, during the daytime on this music, and that you were the sculptor, I was the painter, as you were saying, and these kind of things. So, and we just played the first three tracks, and I sort of like described them as chapters of a story. And what is interesting is that the music was mostly created before the pandemic, right? And even the thoughts we had about the topics, let's say, of this music and the vibe of this music, that all happened before the pandemic. So what can you say? Tell us about this.
About we started making music.
Yes.
The whole story. Well, I just can describe the situation we had. We met twice in the studio, and we just found each other in a way. That's how it feels to me still. It's. Um, I remember you were building up your setup, and you said, and I asked you, "Oh, what did you bring, and what is this, and what's that?" And then you said, "Well, I don't know. I haven't tested yet." And it was a really good attitude to me because it was the first sign sending to me, I'm open for everything we do today. There was no rules, no chapters, no, you know what I mean. So there was a good start, and the first session in the studio was basically recording 11 ideas, I think. It was
Mm-hmm.
about 11 pieces of music that we started. And the other part was that you sent me loops before we met, I think, or it was after that. I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, that was before. Yes, that was
Yes,
before.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it started, and to me, it's a real Reuter Schwalm. Um, um, yeah, recording, because it wouldn't work without you, and it wouldn't work without me.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really a 50-50 situation, I think, and that's how it worked. And then we kept sending, like we work, the way like we work these days is sending files and ideas, and I had the freedom, which is what I have to focus on saying this, is I had the feeling and the freedom to work with this material, and you said you can do whatever you want to do, and that was a good start for me, because I'm a bit of a control freak. So once I collect all these sounds, these images, they come up, and then I want to try it out yeah, the way I see them, the images, and it's hard to, even in collaboration, it's hard to put it into words, I think. And
Yes.
that's why it was very good for me to have the freedom to do whatever I wanted. But it's not so far away from what we did anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of
Exactly.
shaped it in a way, and you kept sending stems, and it was really very, very good working.
Yeah, what I liked very much, Peter, was that at the almost at the end of the process, let's say, you said, Marcus, send me more, because you said like there's still something like missing, and then I got very creative again, like I created another different sound world, let's say, of things, of
Yes,
little, of small sounds, let's say,
yes.
that you then integrated into the pieces. And for me, it's not, I have no idea, like, did Peter really use like 5 sounds that I did, or did he use all 20 or whatever? It didn't really matter at all. Like, it was really all about the result. And for me, listening back to whatever you were doing, it was fine. And well, not just fine, it was great. It's like,
Great.
and I already said to people that you're, well, I guess obviously the album that you're most famous for is the one with Brian Eno, right? And I said to people that that's the one that is, it's also kind of like a sort of like a reference recording for me, and sort of like working with you, I realized really how much of that album is you, and that made me
Wow.
very happy and and made me smile. Um, and yeah, so maybe if you don't mind, let's just listen to some more of the pieces,
Yeah,
and maybe another two or three.
great.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Just want to say hello to everyone who's here. I see some faces that I remember, even
yeah.
some of them just from Facebook. But yes, great.
Yes,
Thanks for listening and for joining us. Great
yes,
idea, Markus.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll unmute everybody now, and then we're gonna listen to more pieces. And then maybe Peter, we should also talk about the titles at some point, because this is
Yes.
interesting. Like, okay, so Yes, I'm gonna stop there because it's such an intense piece of music, and I'm really happy, and I want to say I'm really proud of it. It's incredibly intense, just wonderful. I actually skipped a track, which is good, I think, because we're not gonna have enough time to play everything anyway. But this was one of the centerpieces for me. But then all of them are. And Peter, can you just tell us a little bit about the production? So kind of like what is sort of like your signal chain, and you have this special way of working with the desk, with the external desk and the external hardware. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Your voice is still muted, Peter. Let's just find a way to unmute you. Yeah, there we
Now,
go. There we go. Yes.
there was a point in my work technique like 20 years ago when I started working with the computer, or 25 years actually, and I felt what's the right word? I felt a little using a mouse, and writing text with fingers. That's all fine, but making music or mixing, I need a mixing desk. That's quite simple because you can use everything with your body almost, and it's more intuitive. It's easier than working with computer, even if computer and laptop with Logic, that's the software I'm using, is really, yeah, it's a great thing because everything is possible, But there is a flow in creating music, where how we say in English, this haptische,
Yeah.
is really important,
Haptic. Yeah.
yeah, and yes. So I have a package of effect tools, and I put them on the desk as solo, as single tracks. So I don't use the return. I just put them on the desk like an instrument, and so I can make a whole chain of outdoor effects and put them together and send one to the next, to the next, to the next, and can use the whole EQ, and this creates these sounds basically. So I record them, so I don't use them every time I open up a project. I don't have to set up everything again like it was, because it's not possible basically. It's like with analog synthesizers 40 years ago. So you record your session, and then I cut it up basically. And sometimes I decided before what I want to treat with different tools, and sometimes I just keep it running, like I just did for a computer game. So I had to create a couple of background sounds, and my setup in the studio is really made for jam sessions. So I can't, most of them I can't redo, so it's recorded and I can use it.
Yes.
Or I try to do something else, and this is kind of fun because it's happening in the moment. You record it in the moment, but you can't edit it in a big sense of technique.
Yes. Yes. It's like it's using the studio as a musical instrument, and as you say,
Yes.
it's very haptic. Haptic. You can grab an EQ, you can grab a fader, you have your chaos pads, for example, where you can put your fingers on them, and and you can
Yes.
create these textures in the moment, and everything is in a flow and in a process basically as you're working with the desk, which is wonderful, really. And the funny thing is that I'm doing something similar with my looping stuff, but I do it in the computer because I have to travel with it, right? But it's like there's something we have in common there. This approach,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so Peter, I was thinking like we have Daniel Hadlop here who is going
Yes.
to produce a video for this album, and I really I don't even know which pieces you have, Daniel, but Daniel,
Yeah.
I'm going to unmute you just for a moment. Yeah. Hello,
Okay.
Daniel.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yes. Hi,
Hey.
everyone.
Hey, first time
Uh,
I meet you. So
yeah, no.
what are you working on right now?
Well, actually, maybe Peter, it's better for Peter to explain because he mixed two tracks together, yeah. Um, so it's like maybe like a special edition in a way. Um, and I think it's the first one, Aufbruch, yeah, it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one, I don't know actually right now.
The titles. I found it. I put these titles together. So sometimes at the end of musical process, I create titles for the music, but I still have the old titles from the working process in my mind. So that's
Yes.
why I can't say what the. I think it's not the last, but the last before the last track on the CD. I don't know if somebody has an overview about this now.
It's losgelöst is that one.
Losgelöst, exactly.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's a piece from the very beginning of the album and a piece from the end of the album. I think that's what matters.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's not the final version yet. Speaking about the music and the images, I'm still working on the video. It's not done.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm hoping to get it done like in the next couple of days, actually.
Nice. Can you give us a preview?
Yeah, I prepared something. I mean, I'm not sure whether you can actually hear the music as well. I can share my screen.
Yes.
But does it play the music as well?
It does work if at the bottom left of the sharing window you can click share audio, and then it should even give you an option to share hi-fi. Just it's a little tick box once you click on share screen.
So just it's like it gives you a glimpse. I'm going right into the video. So it's just like an extract. Maybe I can play 2 bits, I thought, which probably gives you like an idea about the whole thing. Maybe just shortly, I draw. I also draw digital on an iPad, and the program I'm working with records every drawing step I make, and with that footage, I do the editing of whatever film. I'm actually a filmmaker as well. And with Peter, I've been working on some other stuff before. And somehow it always, more or less, I think, Peter, it always works, your music with my kind of drawings, like from the atmosphere. Anyway, so, okay. Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think the sound is gone.
It's not playing?
Yeah, but don't worry about the sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just maybe even just show us the images. It's fine.
Yeah, these visuals are intense.
Wow.
Okay, I stop here. Otherwise, you're going to see the whole video.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, it's of course with the sound. Without the sound, it's, I guess, a different experience.
It's really
Mesmerizing. That was incredible. I put on the sound because they had the storm sirens out here on, so I figured there was no sound. I might as well put the storm siren sound on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, Daniel, I like it very much. It's the first time I've seen this and kind of like really seen your work in the context with this music, obviously. And I'm very impressed that you came up with this idea to zoom out, because it's really a lot like I experience the music. Like I sort of like myself as I listen, I sort of like go in and out all the time, and like this idea, like with the windows or the corridor, and obviously the colors with the clouds at the beginning that are there, and it's really because this was the piece, mostly the piece Losgelöst. So towards the end of the album, also with Sophie's voice, which I guess you couldn't hear now, but anyway, you'll see the video soon enough. I like it very much, Daniel. It's fantastic.
Cool.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ah.
Thank you.
Giacomo,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Giacomo, come on.
Let me unmute. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Are we in the right direction?
I always think, I have this, I don't know why, I always had this notion of being an astronaut in this astronaut suit, in this massive, very, very alone, and yet at the same time in amazement in front of the enormity. And I'm looking at the video, and it feels like it's as if someone was looking at the world from inside their own bodies, but where this body is like a shell, and it's like this odd shell, and then he's retreating away from it, and yet at the same time, it's you know, there is a sense of it's very eerie. It's very, but it's also very beautiful. So you have on one side, incredible desperation, and on the other side, so a desire to go towards this incredible desperation, this tension, and you are kind of balancing in this tension. At the same time, there's also a sense of duty and the fact that you have to embrace the moment where you are. And I think the very notion of Aufbruch is somehow it's where you realize that you can't really go back anymore, and you can only go forward no matter what the consequences. And I find that super powerful. You know, it's also, and it's shaking and it's beautiful. I think that the images they really speak to the music and to what the music means to me personally. Yeah, of course, this is, you know, I think very nice, very good. Yeah, it definitely works. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's powerful. It's very, very powerful. It's yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's tender, but it's also incredibly heartbreaking. There's a lot of break in there. One feels, I feel, maybe I fight, but at the same time, you know, there's also a sense of, you know, when you're young, you break your heart and you don't know why, and eventually one day you're like, that's why. Oh, bollocks. And that moment of where you know, and maybe because you have your children, and you know, that moment where you go from watching all ahead, and then suddenly realize that you went over the hill, you know, and suddenly you're going over the hill, and then you realize why you were there in the first place, and it's very beautiful. I like this. Very, very, very beautiful.
Thank you.
Are we recording this, or I should write this all down? This is like the perfect critic.
Yes, it is. I was thinking the same. This is the perfect sales pitch, but we don't need to sell it anymore because the guy who's just given us the sales pitch is the label boss.
No, it's you know, it is a record for exactly the right time. I think it's a music that speaks to the now, as you know. This is now. And it's very courageous at the same time. I like the fact that it's very mutig. You know, it's got the courage of awareness of when you become aware that somebody was saying awareness of awareness. Is absolutely correct. Yes. When the third person point of view and the first point of view finally fuse together again, then you can finally go forward with complete intensity and in the moment all the time, rather than observing yourself and others like a continuous theater, like a theater. You know, it's and it's not without suffering. It's not without. It's. I don't know. There is something. It tells me something about the weight of time. I don't know how. Otherwise, it's, you know, time is awesome and it sucks at the same time. See, time sucks at the same time. It's also got a sense of humor.
Yes. Hey, so I'm curious how the journey continues. So I will mute everybody again, and we'll listen to the next piece. Okay. So for this, I will have to just share again. Just a second. There we go. Zoom is not so super clever in keeping the settings. So here we go. This is the next piece. It's called Ein Riss, a crack in English. So let's also listen to the next piece. This one is called Der lange Weg, the long way. Yeah, that's that. Like for me, each piece I listen to is better than the other. It's like it really excites me, this music, and without having to use Giacomo's words, for me it just excites me. It makes me happy, and it's the darkness, it's the sadness, it's the experimentation that makes me happy. It's the musical statement. It's sort of like it's also obviously for me and for Peter, we know about the process of how this music came about, so also that makes me happy. Just like listening back and then realizing like the sounds from all phases of the process are present in these pieces, which I find incredible. Yeah, I don't know. Like so Peter, maybe you can confirm this, maybe not. But to me, it was as if there was not a single moment where we talked about any tonalities or keys or whatever. Like there was no talk about that at all whatsoever during the whole process. Once,
yeah. It was one of the first pieces we were starting improvising in my studio. And I remember they said, let's make a harmony change.
yeah.
And then it took like 16 bars till we figured out. So we kept recording this moment. And I don't know which, I think it was number, I don't know which one. One of the ambient pieces, let's say ambient piece.
Yeah.
And it has this quiet moment, and then there's this change coming, and we kept it like that. So
Yes.
we didn't change it. So, but that was the only moment. I agree.
Yeah. It's this, like I said, like I'm so happy about it because it's the embodiment. This music is the embodiment of magic for me, like the magic of being human and working together and sort of like celebrating this little bit of life that we have in us. And so I hope that all of you get to make music somehow, and even if you're just listening, because listening is also part of the creation of this music. So thank you everybody for being here for this. So I do want to play like maybe a couple more pieces towards the end. I don't want to go over 90 minutes today, so let's maybe have like, if any of you if you have any questions or you want to talk to us about anything related to this music or something else, now is your chance. And please go ahead. Like Jonas, you have a question? No. Frank? No. No. And I know I understand that it's difficult to, you know, like I'm also sometimes working as a teacher, so I know that people usually don't respond if you ask them if they have questions. But yeah, so Frank just wrote, "This is huge. I agree. It's a really nice stepping stone, I would say. Like, you know, like for me, the funny thing is, like, I don't consider my works to be stepping stones into something else. Like, to me, each piece, each work is final. It's my last piece of work, and you know, I have this strange psychological thing, which maybe I can just quickly explain. Like for me, it's a wonder that I'm alive, and I experience it every day. I and that, yeah, well, while that could be something very positive, and I think it is in general, but it also it also makes me feel very vulnerable, and I know that I could just die any moment, and that's kind of like what I meant about the music. That every single thing I do, I try to just enjoy as if it's the last thing I do, literally. So, and
I had a question.
yes.
I had a question. Yeah, when you were recording, when you were making the music, did you use modular synthesizers, Ableton, or a combination of both?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Peter.
Sorry, I didn't understand the
Sure.
question.
When you create the music, do you use like a program like Ableton, or is it modular synthesizers, or is it a combination?
Yeah, it's a combination. So I have one of my favorite synthesizers. Sounds a bit silly, but I really like it. Is a Nordlead, the Nordlead 1 synthesizer. Then I still use a DX7 II synthesizer, and of course I have loads of plugins and synthesizers like Massive, and like some of them I even don't know the names, but it's but I almost never keep them use the sound untreated. You know what I mean? It's never. It's I always send it while I'm playing. I have already a little setup playing a very simple sine wave note, and doesn't sounds like a sine wave at the end when it comes out of the system, you know. So
okay.
But my main software I use to put it all together, and sometimes I use, of course, all sounds from native instruments, like natural sounds. My main software is Logic. That's the...
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Derek. Any other questions, maybe?
How old are you?
How old are you?
I have an observation and a question. The observation was, and I posted it in the chat, the use of space, which I really liked. And I'm making a comparison to something, although it's a totally different recording, but it evokes a similar mood. Is the album you did, Marcus, with Gary Husband. Mm-hmm. I had a similar feeling listening to this. And one of the things that I really enjoyed was the use of space. It wasn't all filled up. There was breathing room in there, even though there were dense moments happening in it. My question is, the sadness underlying much of this, I'm curious if you could maybe go into that, since this is pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question, Henry. I mean, I really don't have a good answer to that. I think maybe it's just the fact that, as I said, like, my outlook on life is the one that I'm not going to be here forever. So I find kind of like joy, somehow I find joy in actually working with those feelings rather than neglecting them. And I wouldn't like, yeah, I mean, somebody's just writing, I don't hear a sentence here. And awe, yeah, awe is a really much better word. That's absolutely true. I don't know your name, 126, whatever. It's just written that in the chat. So I agree. It's awe. For me, it's awe, and it's a wonderful thing. And like Peter said, like we have found each other in this sort of like emotional world as well, and it's cool. Yeah, like we didn't have to talk about it. Like there was the moment when we had to sort of have an idea what we're going to call it, or and that was, I think that was the time when we started thinking about like what is the what does this music represent for us, or what kind of visual do we have. And I remember, Peter, we talking, well, at least I remember that I said that, I guess first, that it was like my idea of like an overgrown industrialized city, like something old but new, but cultured, but nature, and nature kind of like taking back the cities and something like that. That's sort of like what it felt like and what it was like to me, even before Peter started like kind of like producing the pieces. And somehow this feeling just remained, and it's kind of like in the music. And as we kind of like get to the end of the album, you'll see that there are a couple moments where it kind of like hints at something different, where it hints at some sort of hope and hopeful kind of awe, and yeah, so that's what I can say. Peter, do you have anything like, is the music sad for you?
No,
Yeah,
it's I sometimes make music in the studio. I have some chords, and it sounds sad, but at the end, there's always this light, whatever I do. That's how I feel about it. Some people might get depressed listening to my music, but the idea is that there's dark and light always changing in life. It's a very simple idea. It's not really an idea. That's drawn from life, in a way. That is life, and
yeah, exactly. I think the word life is pretty good here as well. It's just, it's life. Yeah.
I must say about the pandemic thing, there was for me it felt like a chance. That's why I have the name for the other record I did with Ave Henriksen, and which is called Neuzeit, which is also something that goes, so everything falls apart and crashes, but it's a chance to build up something new. And I think that our record as well has this moment. It has the attitude of stand up and keep standing up, and don't fall asleep in a way. It's dark, yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with giving up, I think. That's my feeling when I make music.
Yes, yeah. I agree that like the act of creation, just making something, anything really, is that how shall I say, that action we can take against the fact that we will eventually die. So in a way, like this whole process, and just being also like just the human factor, right, of like how do we deal with each other, is, as we know, it becomes like, it's always been very, very important, but we can see that it becomes more and more important. And that's like where the the big questions kind of like lie, like how, when can we, especially like the theme of the city that we kind of like a little bit have that in the album, right? People are living more and more in cities, like cities get bigger and bigger and all of these things, and somehow I think like the one way to kind of like keep putting good stuff out is to be nice to each other, which is a creative act, and also to make art, and whatever that is. And it doesn't have to be music that's getting released. It doesn't have to be a painting that's being put in a gallery. And so yeah, I'm really grateful, Peter, that we got to make this album, and that some people will get to hear it. And I spoke with Giacomo the other day. He also said that like the chances for making like revenue from music these days are getting slimmer and slimmer. This is something that we're experiencing on a day-to-day basis, actually. And I'm glad, I won't stop making music. Yeah, it doesn't, not at all. It doesn't faze me in that way. Okay, so if there's no more questions, so I would suggest we listen to maybe the last. It's going to be too much to listen to the last three pieces, but I'd say let's listen to the last two pieces of the album, because then we get sort of also you guys get to hear the conclusion of the album, which I think is very poignant and kind of unexpected, even though the theme at the end repeats from some, it happens before in the album. So I'll mute everybody again, and we're going to listen, and then we're going to chat for another few minutes, and that will be it. So
thank you, Markus.
All right, welcome. Here we go. So here we have Sophie Tassignon as a singer. Now for the last piece. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. I have to admit, I just had not goosebumps, but elephant bumps here, like huge on my arms. Thanks so much for tuning in for this, and you know,
Thank
this
you.
is.
That was great.
Thanks, Derek. So this album is out on Rare Noise Records, Giacomo Bruzzo's fantastic label with lots of amazing artists and really fantastic releases. Quite a visionary album and albums on that label. And you know, our album Aufbruch is out on Friday. Is that correct, Giacomo? And maybe if you want, kind of like share a link in the chat.
Yeah.
Please. Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be great. And
let me do it now.
Yes.
Hey, wait a second. Let me just chase it up because.
Yeah, just do that. And maybe Peter, you want to say something at the end of this, just before we finish, or your microphone is muted.
Should it work now?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry. Thanks to you that you have organized this. It's a good idea with so many people. No, I'm looking forward to, obviously, to reactions, how people react on this, and yeah.
I completely
I'm looking
agree.
forward to next projects as well, and it's yeah, and thanks to everybody joining us tonight.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. So let's just leave it at that. We're just like pretty good timing, like 93 minutes now. So Giacomo just posted a link in the chat, so if everybody who wants to kind of catch it would just go there and click on it, because I think like when I'm closing the session, the chat won't be there anymore.
Well, you can record this session, I found out.
Yeah, I recorded the video of this, but I don't know how to record the chat. So but maybe some people know. Maybe like save chat. I can see there's a save chat. Yes, if you click on these three dots there, and but anyway, just click on it and yeah, subscribe to Rare Noise newsletter. And there's also like this. Yeah, let me just mention that because I think that's something special that Giacomo is doing. So sort of like a model where people can sort of become patrons of a year of releases. And I think that's a great idea. And our album obviously is part of that. Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. It was a pleasure. And, you know, let us know what you think of the album. Please send us an email if you want to share your impressions. Both Peter and I are always happy to receive email. Okay. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And bye-bye for now. Bye. Peace.
Thank you. Vielen Dank.